Hey guys, it's Scully here, and today I'm just gonna sit and talk. Alright, so with Secret of the Mimic coming out, there's a whole lot of new lore about the history of Fazbear Entertainment and its involvement with Murray's Costume Manor. Mainly the relationship between the owners of Fazbear Entertainment, Willie Mafton and Henry Emily, and the owner of MCM, Edwin Murray Jr., not Sr. They didn't seem to have a relationship with Edwin's dad. But Edwin seemed to view William and Henry as his friends. But I want to put that aside for a different reason because there has been a bit of a question on my mind, and that was when the safe rooms were sealed. So the safe rooms are a pretty big deal, considering that's where, William Afton gets spring locked and becomes Springtrap. He's locked in there for 30 years, and, that's when Fazbear's Fright happens. And from what I've seen from, different timeline videos, they don't really explain when the safe rooms get closed, just, a sort of area when it could have happened. But I don't really see any theories on, history and all that. Okay, so in FNAF 3, they're explained as basically just being rooms that are invisible to the animatronics and out of view from the cameras and out of access for customers. So it's just for employees. I don't think we were given information on what the safe room's use is. But what we know is that it's just hidden from everything. And I do have a theory about the safe rooms, but heavily depends on the theory that the 1985 Freddy's is the same as 93 Freddy's. And with the Parachute.exe ending, that could more likely be the case than it was previously. Since there's a secret prototype version of Freddy's underneath MCM, and it's the exact layout of Five Nights at Freddy's 1. And so, at some point in 1983, Freddy's opens, and the safe room still exists when Freddy's opens, considering that there is a safe room at the FNAF 1 location because of the FNAF 3 minigame. That happens at the end of each night, layout and all that, and it's connected to the restrooms. So, 1983, Freddy's opens, and at some point after the bite of 83, Fredbear's closes, and the Springlock animatronics are deemed unfit for employees, and they're moved to the safe room at Freddy's. Then in 1985, the Spring Bonnie animatronic has been noticeably moved, and that's likely when the missing children's incident occurs. Now, my theory is that, part of my theory is that Fazbear Entertainment finds out that someone was luring those kids at the back using a mascot suit into the safe room, and they sealed it off to cover it up. Because, Fazbear Entertainment covers up a lot of shit. They covered up, MCM, they covered up a lot of stuff, including, the missing kids at Pizzaplex, in Security Breach. They also cut corners. They're very known to cut corners. Recycling Pizza and Security Breach and Help Wanted. They're reusing old bits. They're giving, old bits of tech to the company that's developing the VR game. The Freddy Fazbear's virtual experience. To do that. And, that eventually implies the circuit board. And that circuit board, which is probably the software where the Mimic 01 or 02 Mimic 2 software is on, and that's what develops into glitch trap malware, whatever you want to call it. And that leads on to that plot point. But yeah, they're a bad company. They cover up bad stuff, they cut corners, all that. So it is honestly not outside the realm of possibility that they see what's happening on the cameras and they cover it up. Now, I'm not saying they see the murders on the cameras, because the safe room obviously doesn't have a camera, is invisible to the cameras. I'm just saying that the way to the safe room is not invisible, because the safe room is attached to the restrooms, and the restroom camera is on the wall where the door would be before it got sealed. And it also does... Now, I did look at the other timelines from both MatPat's most recent timeline before he retired, and then FNAF's timeline. Not FNAF the franchise, FNAF the YouTuber. I'll probably label him as like John FNAF or something like that, because his name's John. I think. Is his name John? Hold on, let me look it up. Yeah, John. His name's John. Literally, it's literally the joke. You know, John Pork, John FNAF, all that. God, brain rot's killing my brain. Alright. Yeah, but basically they have sort of the same timeline of events. Now, what I assume is the time period where the safe room gets sealed is between June 26th, 1985, when the Missing Children's incident happens, and the end of 1985 when Freddy's closes. And then with the 87 location, a safe room is not built because they just don't want that to happen again. Because no safe room, no secret room to hide bodies. You know, for the mascot killer, Willie Mafton, to take kids to and murder. And I think that's one of the reasons why William decides to lay those bodies out in the open, considering the save them minigame. Because, honestly, I think it'd be a really dumb idea to kill them in the parts service room. Because that room has the Wither animatronics, and they are just haunting, and those children would have cried. And so it leads into that possibility that William killed them and just laid their bodies out in the open. And that's the reason, and there's a reason for that now, because the safe room doesn't exist. There's no secret room invisible to the cameras and the animatronics that he can just kill those kids in and hide their bodies again. So that's basically just my theory, is that 1983, some point in 1983, Fredbear's closes, Freddy's opens, and the Springlock suits are taken there. 1985, the spring body animatronic is noticeably moved. And, you know, the Missing Children's incident happens, and Fazbear Entertainment seals off the safe room to cover up what happened. I don't think it's necessarily Henry that's covering up. I think it's just higher ups in Fazbear Entertainment, probably a manager. I don't think it would be Ralph, the phone guy, but definitely a higher up. You know, he just doesn't want bad publicity as much as they're already getting with the incident, so they're just doing that. And then 1987 happens. There's no safe room. One of the reasons why William decides to just lay their bodies out in the open to try and get it closed down. And I do believe that he is trying to get it closed down, like the first time. Whether it be FNAF's timeline reason for sealing the toy animatronics endoskeletons for remnants, or the MatPat version where it was just to get it closed down because he was jealous of the success and he was all angry, pouting, like, "Oh, they didn't let me back in, and they opened a new restaurant, and they didn't let me back in. Oh, I'm gonna get them closed down. I always come back," that sort of thing. And then when they redesigned the Withered animatronics to the FNAF 1 animatronics and go back to the 85 location. I do think the 85 location is bigger. They just redesigned some rooms, move the layout a bit, but the safe room stays where it is. They probably just closed off a bunch of rooms from the original location. But yeah, the safe room stays where it is. Willie breaks in there. Dismantles the animatronics, gets spring locked, and is stuck in that safe room for 30 years. By sealing off, they probably didn't put like a full-on wall up. They probably just put some plaster over the door to save money. Like just plaster and tile in there. So the door is probably still there. It's just hidden. But anyway, thank you for just hearing me ramble for like 11 minutes on my theory. Because, with this story being more fleshed out, like, I was just pacing earlier today and about, timeline stuff, thinking about all that, and it came to me that the safe room is probably sealed between Freddy's closing and the missing children's incident, to coincide with like the whole sealing up the safe room and William laying those kids out in the open in the 87 location and all that. I really hope this gets talked about a bit more, because like there's just those little tiny details. Like I really do like the theory that Cassidy was spring locked and all that. Like those details and all that. Susie was the first. Cassie's was the most brutal. It's just those small details that flesh out that world a bit more. And, that's why I love this franchise. The lore's hidden. You have to actually look to find it. And most of it is theory. We don't know what the definitive lore is. We don't know what the definitive story is. And probably won't ever figure it out until Scott himself is like, okay, here it is. Here's all it. Go nuts. And we'll finally get, a conclusion to this story. Yeah, but anyway, thank you for listening, and I hope you guys have a great day. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.